Well, hello there, motherfuckers, and welcome to another movie review. And we're gonna look at Logan. So it took me a while to see this movie. Um, Planning on seeing this movie for a couple of weeks now. Finally got to see it, and this is without a doubt, as it stands right now, probably the best X-Men movie I have seen. And it might be one of the best Marvel movies I've seen. It's better than the Avengers movie. I mean, like, people think that I say this, people who like the Avengers movies, just to get under people's skin. You know, people got a bad taste in their mouths from me when I said that I liked Batman versus Superman. I mean, the thing is, people couldn't take a differing opinion. And people still harass me on Twitter. They still harass me on here about liking
that movie, about not liking the Avengers movies, and you people know who you are. Um, Now, this is exactly why I don't like the Avengers movies. Take a look at a movie like Logan, and take a look at a movie like Civil War, for example, which many people say, oh, it's a Captain America movie. It was more of an Avengers movie. Captain America was Winter Soldier, which is what I liked. So here you've got Logan, which is just a nice, straightforward story that has a lot of story to it, but doesn't get bogged down with a lot of nonsense and tries to be something that it's not, trying to come up with these overly complicated nuances, which is exactly what all the Avengers movies tried to do. They get a little bit too much, trying to be more than what it is, and nobody wants to accept this because the thing is, people want to like these movies. The critics give them amazing reviews, and I'm very happy that like I said, I don't really care what the critics say anymore. They've dishonored themselves time and time again by giving these glowing reviews to subpar films. So I don't really put a lot of stock in what the critics say nowadays. But Logan is just a shining example of how Disney just is not always the best thing for Marvel. I don't know why people are so so much rushing to the defense of Disney all the time when it comes to the Marvel movies. I mean, I don't know, but they put a very, very different spin on things. Like I said, I prefer the style of movies that we got, like with the first two Spider-Man films. I like the style of film that we get with Days of Future Past. I'm not crazy about this style that we saw in Civil War or Age of Ultron. I felt that these movies were just a huge disappointment. They weren't compelling films. They get bogged down with story where it's like, who cares? And nobody really understood where I was coming from, or they didn't want to understand where I was coming from. Is probably more like it. But perhaps they'll understand where I'm coming from when it comes to Logan. So I think you guys can see a common trend here. I've liked pretty much every single Marvel movie except for these Avenger-based films with like multiple characters in them. I've liked Deadpool. I've liked X-Men: Days of Future Past, Apocalypse, which wasn't as good as Days of Future Past, but still a pretty good movie. So it's not like this thing where people say I'm hating on Marvel to hate on Marvel. And it's like I'm hating on Marvel because I hate Marvel and because I'm a DC fanboy. This is like I've been hearing this now for over 2 years, ever since I put up my Age of Ultron video and I started really giving shit to Disney for putting out these lackluster films that are very, very high budget and just very, very light on entertainment. So I'm sorry I don't get behind films like that. If I'm not entertained by a film, and I'm going to review it. I'm not going to just lie to please an audience. You know, it's not. And I've said this. I like Marvel better than DC, but the recent efforts were superior from DC to me. Like Suicide Squad and Batman vs Superman entertained me more than that. But okay, we're going to talk about Logan or why this is better. First of all, the R rating, like I said, it helps enormously. We see what these mature ratings do for Marvel properties. Jessica Jones, Daredevil. These are incredible series. We saw what the R rating did for a movie like Deadpool. Let them take the gloves off, you know, not really be so restrictive when it comes to the content of the film. And you've never seen Wolverine like this. This is a violent movie. It is a dark movie. There's not a lot of comedy to be had. There's a couple little jokes thrown in, some things that may be unintentionally funny or just, however they may be. But it's a pretty stern tone to this film. And I couldn't help but feel like saddened in this movie, knowing that this is Hugh Jackman's last performance. I don't know how they're going to get a better actor than this. I'm going to assume that this is this still Sony doing this? I'm guessing so. But or 20th Century Fox rather. I guess that's who owns X-Men. Anyway, so I'm going to guess that Disney is going to probably get full property rights to this to the entire X-Men. Because that's what they're going to do. They're just going to buy everything up like one big monopoly. No other studio is going to get a chance to do anything with any of these films. It's going to be Disney, and if you don't like it, it's going to be their way or the highway. And I guess I'm going to have to be taking the fucking highway. Unless they go back to directing films in the style of Winter Soldier, I'm going to be done with them. And I won't be seeing any more of their movies. But thing is, they're not going to be able to find anybody better than Hugh Jackman. Although, not all the movies were, 5 stars. Like, for example, The Wolverine, the last Wolverine movie, bored me to tears. I did not like that movie at all. I thought it was actually quite a stinker. Which was pretty strange because most people seem to prefer that film over its predecessor, which was universally panned by many fans. And I didn't even think that the movie was that bad. Many people just said that it just strayed too far from the comic. But was it a bad movie? I didn't really think it was bad. I thought it was entertaining. Is it such a crime when so many of these movies change so many different things if it's not exactly... And I was like that, too. I remember when I went to go see Spider-Man... the Sam Raimi Spider-Mans, and I was like, oh, they changed so many things. Uncle Ben dies in the streets, not in the house. Spider-Man doesn't have web shooters. Instead, the webbing is coming right out of his wrist. I had some problems with these comic book inaccuracies. Translating it onto the silver screen. And then as I got older, I was like, who gives a shit? It was kind of like, this is an entertaining movie, and there's some changes. But at the end, I'm entertained, so why am I complaining? I found that really, if we're going to complain about things, we should be
complaining if the movie is not entertaining, if it's not really sparking our interest. That's why, and you can clearly see that. You've got movies like the ones being directed by, Disney, or being produced by Disney, I should say, that are following the comic book closely, more closely than they have in the past, from other film studios. And I'm noticing that they're far less entertaining, or they're just not doing as good of a job, putting it onto the silver screen. They're not doing it with enough pizzazz, whatever the case may be. This is what we should be judging movies on, based on how entertaining they are. Why watch a movie if they're not entertaining? So, anyway, so this movie definitely does benefit from its rating. is great to see more added violence. I mean, violence does not make a film, but it really brings out the savage within Wolverine. We really do see that. And this is what I'm saying. This is the dark tone of Wolverine. We get to meet his daughter, and it's basically a man on the run, basically, trying to protect the girl, fight off villains. Just basically, just not really tying anything down with stupid storylines about sanctions from United Nations and shit like that bog down all the other films with that stupid garbage. Like they're a danger to society. No, this is just pretty cut and dry. They're given a lot of freedom really to develop on Wolverine's characters. Very interesting though that they went with an older Logan here, a Logan that is sick. He's dying, and he's not healing as well as he used to. And there's a lot of interesting parts, seeing an aged Professor Xavier who is having, seizures. And when he has these seizures, I mean, I love the effect of this in the film. When there's just like a blaring, ear-ringing sound going off. And Logan has to provide the Professor with a shot in order to somewhat sedate these effects caused by his telekinesis. And, there's just a lot of really interesting parts, and it really captivates you. There's a lot of action in this film. It feels very Wolverine, more Wolverine than any of the other films in the past. The movie has not like a huge, massive story like Days of Future Past, but, I don't know. I don't know if it's a newer film, and the fact that seeing this film and it's different than Days of Future Past. It really is a lot different. It is very character driven. I mean, this is a movie where really we're meant to explore Logan, see him in pretty much his final days. Spoiler alert right there. So don't watch the video anymore if you don't want to be spoiled. But Logan dies at the end. I mean, it pretty much cements the fact that they are through with this, at least this timeline for X-Men. This is the last blow off. Hugh Jackman's done with the character. Xavier also passes on in this film. And it's sad to see. I mean, really, these characters for almost like 16 years, whatever 16 and a half years, have played these characters for a decade and a half. And they're finally retiring from these roles. I mean, I've heard this about Hugh Jackman. I don't know about Patrick Stewart as Xavier. I'm going to guess that maybe he might be giving it up, but I'm just saying it's just truly, it's a real shame. I mean, it's great to see these actors finally getting to do that one last hoorah, and it really does pay off big time. You can see that Hugh Jackman really put a lot into this performance, knowing that it was going to be his last. And I think it's going to be hard to find a guy that's tough like this and also a good actor who could really fill the shoes. And if it goes into the hands of Disney, I know that we're fucking doomed. Because I'm telling you, I am not crazy about who they picked to be Spider-Man. I am not crazy about them picking Mark Ruffalo as the Hulk. I mean, they make a lot of shitty decisions. It's really quite obvious. Many people seem to rally around these decisions. They're just like they rally around every single decision that comes out of the Disney studio. But, I really did enjoy this film a lot. It had a really dark tone. The added violence really brought out the inner character of Wolverine. This was really like, it brought out the best part. This is why they started doing Wolverine films and why they changed things around, made him the main character in Days of Future Past. I mean, let's face it, these X-Men movies are all about Wolverine. One way or another, all the attention always gets drawn to Wolverine. In the first film, you know, we saw that he was the fan favorite. In X2, once again, it goes right back to Logan as they visit the Weapon X facility and see, you know, William Stryker. And we, you know, from that point, we had X3, undoubtedly the main character. We had X-Men Origins with Wolverine, again the main character, the Wolverine. I mean, so it made sense to finally, you know, just do this last film and make it a Logan film. I don't think there's any plans to do any more X-Men films. If they are going to do them, like I said, they're probably going to be done by Disney, and they're going to be in a way different style. Probably going to try to make it more like the comics, you know, try to, you know, take away that cinematic feeling. And that's the problem with a lot of these films from Disney when they get them. They feel very manufactured. Like this film, like Logan, it felt very natural. There was nothing forced. You know, nothing shoved down your throat like this is the way how it has to be. I don't know. I felt more like I could process this film more than I could the Avengers. It felt more like a chore sitting through Civil War and Age of Ultron. It really did. It doesn't feel very natural. It just feels like, you know, you've seen this movie but incorporated, you know, in different ways, and it's just being regurgitated into a Marvel film. Way too many cliches, bogging it down where storyline doesn't really need to be, complicating it, and you know, like I said, many people are going to argue and they're going to be like, "Oh, that's because it didn't make sense to you." Not that it really didn't make sense. What I'm saying, it doesn't make sense in the vein of it being in a Marvel movie. You really don't need that much story, is what people don't understand. They want these big, you know, overarching stories that, you know, take a lot of concentration and different perspectives, and we have to sit back for many years and analyze them. I say, fuck it. That is a very poor approach. Like I said, why can't people just take the Sam Raimi approach, take the Bryan Singer approach? Don't start bogging things down with meaningless story just to make things more complicated, just to make your film seem more sophisticated. It's not needed. Take it from Logan. This is a film that many people enjoy. I think many people agree. I really haven't seen anybody say that they don't like this film. But this is the style, at least in my opinion, that they should be trying to do. Now, I know that not every single Marvel movie is going to be rated R, and I realize that we're probably not going to have a rated R Captain America film, and that's just not going to happen with Disney. That we're just not going to have that. But I'm going to really just plead with Marvel, please do not give all your properties to Disney. Do not let them eat them all up, because there's not going to be a lot of entertainment to be had. All these franchises are going to be, they're going to feel very manufactured, very put together, like they're being processed through a, through a cinematic Hollywood machine. That's the thing. They feel very Hollywood. You know, they don't feel like a love letter to fans, or, you know, just like a director enjoying making a movie, making a piece of art. Instead, they feel like these very manufactured, machine-fed movies. And I've done thousands of rants on them. And the reason why I keep bringing it up and people keep criticizing me for bringing it up, because there is definitely a crossroads when it comes to superhero films now. They were much, much different than what they were. And you'll notice, when they were less Hollywood and they were a little bit more of the director taking their own spin on things and, you know, just trying to make an entertaining film, I noticed the critics were really against them. They were not big fans of it. But now that Disney has got a hold of these films, now all of a sudden everything is getting a thumbs up. It's the best thing ever.
because now they've made them more machine-fed, by the numbers, predictable films, with not a lot of twists and turns, but just, you know, a lot of the same old Hollywood cliches that we see time and time again, and so much CGI. You know, and I'm not saying that there wasn't any CGI in this film, but I'm saying it felt so much less manufactured, Logan. Like I said, it felt like more like a movie that James, Mangold, I believe that's how you say his name, that was enjoying making this film. That this is anybody that likes the character Wolverine. This is like a love letter to them. Like, he's just enjoying getting inside the Wolverine character and just giving Hugh Jackman a chance to just really do what he does best one last time. And he succeeded. See, but the thing is, like I said, I'm very, very worried about if Disney gets a hold of this property. We're not going to have that anymore. We're going to just have this feel very, Hollywoodized. It's not going to feel the same. We're not going to have that same level of excitement from these films. There's just, it really is a much different take on superhero films that Disney has. It really is. It seems like it's less about entertaining the audience and more about, Hollywoodizing it, satisfying this niche audience, and not really giving a lot to everybody else. And, I think there's a lot of different things that are guilty of that, catering to that little audience that complained about movies not being, too comic book enough. And like I said, I got over that years and years ago, over a decade ago, where I was like, I don't really care if it's accurate to the comic book or not, and they changed things. Like I said, I got over Spider-Man's web shooters a long time ago, but that was another thing that they changed in order to, and that wasn't even Disney. Anyway, guys, this is a movie that's definitely worth checking out. Before they take this property and probably try to change it and try to make it extremely different, than it's been in the past. Perhaps they'll give it back to Bryan Singer. I hope they do. Like I said, I really did enjoy what he did with Days of Future Past, and if we could get another movie in that style, if we could finally get a movie with Cable in it, that would be great. Something we've been promised this time and time again. I thought we were shopping around for a Cable. I guess that we're not at this point. What happened, like when we were saying, like, should Kevin Nash be Cable or should Ron Perlman make it? Whatever happened to that movie that Cable was supposed to be? Are they still doing it? I don't know. Anyway, guys, I really like this movie a lot. And like I said, I hope that if there obviously is going to be another Wolverine, I hope that they find a suitable replacement for Hugh Jackman. Like I said, I'm very concerned about that. I really do enjoy going to superhero films, and I hope that Disney doesn't just become a full-on monopoly and take over, because like I said, I am just not a fan of how they do these movies when they get a hold of them. Alright, guys, until next time.